Hello there, I'm Miranda and this is Take a Moment with NCHC, the show where we talk to you and your colleagues about experiences that affect you. Listen on your drive between patients or in your downtime, whenever you get the chance to take a moment.
Hi, my name is Mercy and I'm the EDI advisor for the Trust.
And hi, I'm Karen. I'm the Clinical Quality Director in South Place.
So, Mercy and Karen, tell me about your relationship.
I am Karen's reverse mentor. So we both participated in the reverse mentoring program that the Trust has been running 2 or 3 years now. The program's about 6 months-ish long, and that seemed to whiz by, to be honest. And good or bad, I don't know. Yeah, so that's kind of how we started our relationship. But obviously, because of both of our roles, we've worked together previously because of working on inclusion initiatives.
So, did you approach Karen, or Karen did you approach? How was the relationship kind of formed within that reverse mentoring?
So I was asked as part of all of the senior management team in the trust if anyone wanted to volunteer to undertake reverse mentoring. So I didn't know who I'd be paired with. I was contacted by Bex Bus, who explained the process to me because it was all new. And at that point, I still didn't know who I was being paired with. And when I found out it was Mercy, it was quite exciting as I knew about her, worked a little bit with her, and knew how dynamic she was. So I was really excited to be paired with Mercy.
So, 6 month long program. So, you went into it knowing a lot about it, a little about it. Mercy, did you know much about the program?
No, not really. So I know the premise of the program. I understand where it came from, which was encouraging leaders in organizations to gain further understanding of the experience of staffs in lower bandings to them that are predominantly in minority groups. So obviously myself, I kind of tick the race category. I am a woman. I live with a disability. And so those kind of areas of our work where most people may not be in those senior positions. And that also includes people in like the LGBTQ plus community and so on and so forth. And basically to gain more education about their teams, learning about what basically drives us, why we are in the organization, what do we want from our careers, why aren't we getting what we want if we're not getting it, and how us as mentors can actually benefit from our mentees. So it's not just about us sharing our lived experience, but also gaining that professional, practical experience from our senior leaders that we're paired up with. And so that's what I knew about the program. And I understand that our trust and most NHS trusts anyway were focusing predominantly on race because of what's been happening during the pandemic and how racial inequalities were highlighted. So although, yes, all minority groups are encouraged to participate, there has been a real focus on supporting minority ethnic people into higher positions.
In terms of what you knew about it on paper, Karen, was there anything different for you when you started going through the process that you thought, oh, I wasn't expecting to get that from it?
I tried to keep a really open mind before I walked into it. Having been a registered nurse and doing mentorship as part of my, fundamental training, I was very used to being the mentor. So I tried to rewrite what I was expecting as a mentee so that I was more open to what might occur. What I was more surprised about was probably Mercy's approach to what she shared with me. So I think that was the surprise, was her openness to talk about what it was like to be a woman. And I didn't expect that to be it was a big part of our
Mm.
conversation, actually. I expected more to be focusing on what it was like to be Black and working within the NHS and her prior lived experience growing up. It was insightful and interesting, but I think some of our most animated conversations were around being a woman, and that really was different for me to hear.
I was a bit reluctant initially. Then I thought that Like, what was the reluctance about, to be honest? Because I needed to understand, for me, what I was going to gain from it. I just didn't want to share everything about me and then that's it. Like, I've just offloaded on somebody and then walked away. I was just like, what exactly is the purpose for me? And so thankfully, I did participate and I really enjoyed our experience. But one thing that I was very certain about was that I wanted to ensure that, number one, I made Karen aware that we have other connections. It's not that we have all of these differences. And obviously, the main difference is very visible, that we're both different ethnicities. But I'm like, that's not just who we are. That's not what we're about. And I know it's not just the one thing that I solely concentrate on all day, every day, is how black I am. And I think that was where my reluctance came from in the first place. I was just like, oh my goodness, all I'm going to be doing is talking about race. And I just find that it's, like everyone says, it's exhausting. And so I needed to understand all of the different aspects that make me me and contribute to my blackness in my own way. And I think that's what I found enjoyable about our experience, was that it was really easy to make those connections and to have that relationship.
It should never just be about one thing. The whole point of this is that you're entering into a conversation with somebody who you might not necessarily sit down and have a conversation with on a daily basis. Your paths might not have crossed before. Did it open up any conversations for you, Karen, that you weren't expecting?
I was really surprised to hear how growing up things had been put to her, as in how did she get to that position, and why was she at that school, and education. And it wasn't just that she was talking about that from her being black, it was about being a female, and also then having that disability, and how people really do look at you in different veins. But she was so complex in the makeup. It was really interesting to hear from Mercy how all of those different elements made people react to her in different ways in different situations. And I don't think I had the insight prior to speaking with Mercy about that. That was what was really interesting. I think not having a disability and not being black, I wasn't very enlightened as to how people's behaviours and attitudes towards you could be so difficult and challenging at time, and knocks out opportunity in front of you. I assumed wrongly that, Mercy was a very strong character and she would get to wherever she wanted to get to. Barriers were no issue, but actually, they're really difficult things to overcome. And the way in which Mercy had overcome them in her life just showed her strength of character. But what that gave me insight is that not everybody is fortunate enough to have that strength of character. At times, it's just knocked out of you. And so it really taught me a few thoughts about the microaggressions, and the way in which you behave towards people is really important, even at that very low societal level, and the way in which you behave and the way that you observe other people's behaviours towards people. So I think it was really important and a very key lesson for me that she taught me, and she mentored me through to think differently about when I observe stuff. So it was very interesting, quite a powerful way of putting it across without, like I say, just being about being black. It was about all of the way people treat each other in society, really, and the impact on her.
So, Karen, from your perspective, then, as a relatively senior manager, has it affected your relationships in any way? Have you sort of started to think about, from this perspective now, how you interact with people who are a band below, perhaps, or people in your team, or have you changed your how you handle those relationships because of this process?
So I think from a senior manager point of view, there is a hierarchy, a historical hierarchy within the NHS, and we desperately try to break those barriers down. We try to give permissions, but that in itself is hierarchical. But what we try to do is say to everybody in the organisation that everyone's got a valid voice, they should be heard. Please speak up, talk to everybody that you feel able to, and if you can't access a manager, talk to a senior manager, etc. But just by using the term senior manager, you will put people into, some individuals, a position where they feel they can't approach you and they can't have that open conversation. And even when I know that I can walk around and say hello to everybody, I will get some responses because I look like a senior manager. It's two ways. I mean, there is that traditional senior manager, you talk to me when I talk to you barrier, that we are breaking that down through these types of programs, and also the trust. As a whole, I do feel genuinely we want to have people feel that they can talk to us without booking an appointment, without thinking that we control when they can do stuff. But at the same time, there is that changing from the bottom up, for the want of a better word, that people can drive what they want, and when they want it, and have open conversations. So I think it's changed my attitude. We put the South Voice Teams page together, uh, to have people able to talk to us directly and ask us questions in a senior management function without thinking they've got to face a manager. So I'm hoping that those people that find it difficult to directly approach might just pop a message in to say hi, and you start to break down that barrier of that simple low level interaction that might build upon that. And again, it's just about having that approachable, open door, um, focus with teams which are really busy, and they just need opportunistic time to meet you and get to know you as a little bit of a person, just so that makes them feel able to approach you. Once they've seen you, have had maybe a low level conversation, or you've interacted with somebody around something around their service, they may then feel, as we all do, we've got a connection and that we've started to network. And I think that's the key thing, is for senior managers, that we network not only with our peers and people above us in exec and across the integrated care boards, is that we network with the people that are working alongside us. And I think that's the terminology we should be using, is that we're all working alongside each other.
Absolutely. By breaking this down and making senior leaders more human, as you say, Karen, to get to know you a little bit. You don't have to share your life story, but just a little bit of understanding who you are as a person will go such a long way to helping with recruitment. Because imagine if you are looking at somebody in a senior position and thinking, oh, there's no way I could do that. If you get to know them a little bit and actually you realize you've got things in common, or they remind you of a friend or a relative, and you think, oh, maybe I could do that actually. Maybe it's not such an obscure job role that's, like you say, in the up there, to use that phrase. I agree with that completely. I think we do see that hierarchy of down there and up there still. And you're right, Karen, we are breaking down the barriers and it is getting better. But I think, yeah, wouldn't that be amazing if everybody shared a little bit more about themselves outside of something like this process, but also as part of this process? I think that would really help. And I think this is all so brilliantly linked to the Black History Month theme, which is time for change, action, not words. By doing the reverse mentoring program, you have both taken a physical action to try and improve things. And it's worked because you've got outcomes. Karen setting up that page for people to come and talk to you. That's a tangible action off the back of your reverse mentoring process. It's brilliant. But have there been any other actions that you have taken, Mercy, perhaps from the process, that you've gone away and changed something or done something as a direct result?
Apart from continuing with the program, so I've got a new mentee that I'm meeting with this month. So I'm really excited about that, having had such a good experience with Karen. I have also started to deal with like my own kind of imposter syndrome about, why don't I apply for specific roles just because there may not be, for example, women in the team or a black person in the team. It's that thing, is it's that representation. I immediately start to question myself. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough qualifications. I don't have this. I don't have that. I've applied to participate in courses that are going to give me the confidence to become that leader that I know that I can be. I just need to put myself out there.
So, Karen, coming off the back of the program, then thinking about the theme of Black History Month, time for change, action, not words. What does that mean to you, and what do you think is next for you, for the program, for the trust?
So I think this is a wider impact than just me in the workplace. This is me as a person and the way I live my life. That's the way I look at this program. I think there is positive impact around. It's made me look at the way I look at policies in a different way, and that might sound a bit dry, but actually we have to be really clear that we're not discriminating in any way when we write a policy. So that's added an extra layer actually of thought processes. I've looked at some of our recruitment that we've done with our teams to ensure that we're not disadvantaging any potential applicants by putting them off in the wording of our applications, and that just helps me think that we're getting it better, improving what we look like from the external world, because we want to encourage as many people to join the organisation as possible. I think the impact on me as an individual, I'm a wellbeing officer now at my running group, which initially was just going to be around safeguarding. But I've decided to challenge the club why we don't have an equality, diversity, inclusivity program within our team. So we've added that in, and also some behaviours within the club needed to be looked at around some comments that were made once when I was running by another runner that I called out. So I think, the impact of this might have been aimed just at the workplace. But if you don't believe this in your core, it won't come across as credible. And for me, that's the main thing, is it's changed me in my core and made me think very differently.
Thank you for listening to Take a Moment with NCHC. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please visit the podcast intranet page to leave a comment and for details of our other episodes. You can also follow NCHC on all social media channels.